Her blade raised the alien queen, but her child ran straight to the human. It sat in the middle of the Zalari capital like a hollow mountain of black stone and living crystal. From above, it looked like an eye, wide, calm, and always watching. From inside, it felt like a throat. Sound climbed the walls and came back louder. Light from the blue-white sun spilled through high openings and turned the dust in the air into glitter. Commander Elias Ward stood at the center of it. He did not look like the stories they had told about him. He was not wearing armor. He was not holding a rifle or flag. His hands were empty, his wrists marked by the pressure rings of gravity restraint. His uniform was faded and torn at the shoulder, washed too many times in water that smelled like metal. His face was thin from weeks of captivity, and there was a bruise near his left eye that never fully faded. But he stood straight. The Zalari crowd could not decide how to feel about that. Thousands of them filled the rising seats, their bodies wrapped in ceremonial plates and bright cloth. Their voices were sharp and musical, like metal tapping glass. When they spoke together, it sounded like rain on stone. They had come for a simple thing, to watch the last human commander bend. They had conquered Earth in under 4 months. First came the darkening of the skies as ships moved into orbit. Smooth, pale holes like fish under ice. Then came the quiet, careful messages from the Dominion. Submit and be spared. Earth had answered with arguments, protests, threats, and prayers. Then came the first exchange of fire above the atmosphere. Human missiles left smoke trails like angry lines across the sky. Zalari shields took the hits and barely rippled. After that, it went fast. Cities lost power. Satellites died. Military networks collapsed. Old alliances turned into new blame. When the final battle happened above the Atlantic, it was less a fight and more a lesson. The Dominion's weapons did not burn whole continents. They did not need to. They sliced ports and runways and power nodes, precise as scalpels. Earth's defenses were cut apart until they could no longer stand. Then came ground landings. Humans fought anyway, not because it made sense, but because it was what they did. Small groups ambushed supply lines. Pilots flew into skies they did not own. Civilians hit soldiers, even when it put them in danger. Elias Ward had been one of the last to surrender. His squad had held a ruined launch facility on the edge of what used to be a coastal city. They had no air support, no hope of extraction. They had only a radio that kept spitting out old messages and static. When the Dominion scouts surrounded them, Elias had ordered his people to drop their weapons before anyone else got hurt. The Dominion had taken him alive, because the Dominion loved symbols. They called him the last offender not because he was the strongest, but because he was the last one they could point to and say, "This is what resistance looks like when it fails." Now, on this day, he was a story they planned to end in public. A deep horn sounded. It was not a simple note. It carried layers, like 3 different voices singing at once. The crowd's talk faded. Guards along the arena rim stood taller. Spears angled down. Elias lifted his chin. He had seen enough of the Dominion to understand theater. This was not just punishment. It was education. A platform rose from the far side of the arena, carried up by silent machines. It was made of the same black stone, but its edge was trimmed with glowing lines that pulsed softly, like breathing. On it stood the Queen. Queen Valethira was taller than any Zalari Elias had seen in the prisoner halls. She was enormous, but not clumsy. She moved like something meant to live at the top of food chains and politics both. Her body was covered in layered plates that caught the light and turned it into thin, sharp reflections. Her eyes were bright and calm, set in a face that did not show emotion the way humans did. Above her brow rose a crest marked with tiny, silver rings, symbols of victories, they said. Around her stood her honor guard. They wore matching plates and carried weapons that looked like long, folded wings. The Queen raised one arm. From her forearm, a blade of pale energy formed, thin and smooth. It hummed softly, a sound that Elias felt more in his bones and his ears. The crowd released a wave of sound, approval, hunger, and old pride. Elias forced himself to breathe evenly. He had promised himself many things since capture. He had promised not to beg. He had promised not to give them the face they wanted, the one that would make the crowd roar. He had promised to hold on to one small truth, that even if Earth had lost, humans were not finished. The Queen began to speak. Her voice did not need amplification. The arena carried it, shaped it, delivered it into every seat and corner. Let the Dominion witness, she said, what becomes of those who refuse the mercy of order. Elias understood enough of their language now to catch the meaning, though some words still felt strange in his head. The Dominion spoke like they were carving reality into stone. And let the Dominion remember, she continued, that even the fiercest prey must kneel when the storm arrives. A guard stepped forward with a metal rod, activating Elias's restraint. A field pulled at his joints, trying to force him down. Elias's knees bent a little under pressure. He gritted his teeth. He did not kneel. The Queen paused. If she was surprised, she did not show it. But the pause itself was a crack in the performance, and the crowd noticed. A few voices whispered, a few laughed, a few sounded annoyed, as if Elias was ruining their moment. Elias looked up at her. He could not hate her the way he wanted to. Hate required a simple story. Monster hurts people, hero stops monster. But the Dominion had not come with wild rage. They had come with calm certainty. They looked at humanity the way a person looked at an old building that needed to be torn down for a road. That kind of certainty was harder to fight than anger. The Queen descended from the platform. She stepped into the arena's sand as if it belonged to her, as if the ground itself would move aside if it tried to resist. The humming blade stayed raised, light rippling across her forearm. Elias heard a child cry out somewhere in the crowd. High, brief, quickly hushed. Maybe it was human. Maybe it was Valerie. He had learned that fear sounded similar in every throat. The Queen stopped a few paces away. Up close, the blade's hum made the air feel warm. Elias's skin prickled. She tilted her head slightly, studying him, not with hatred, with curiosity. Human, she said, using the word the way someone might say tool or stone. Why do you still stand? Elias did not answer right away. He knew anything he said could be twisted and repeated for years. He knew silence could also be used against him. So he spoke the simplest truth he had left. Because I can, he said. The crowd reacted like he had thrown a rock into still water. A wave of sound rose, then scattered. Some laughter, some anger, some surprise. The Queen's eyes stayed steady. You understand what is about to happen, she said. Yes, Elias replied. Yet you give no plea. No, he said again. The Queen's blade lifted slightly higher. The honor guard shifted their weight, ready in case anything unexpected happened. Elias wondered what the Dominion called unexpected. In his experience, humans lived in the unexpected. The Dominion treated it like a disease. The Queen's voice lowered, just enough that Elias thought it might be meant only for him. Your species fights like a trapped animal, she said. It bites even when the trap is already closed. Elias swallowed. And yours, he said, builds traps so it never has to learn what it feels like inside one. The honor guard stiffened. The crowd hissed in one sharp sound, like a single breath sucked through teeth. For the first time, the Queen's expression changed. Only a little, only a shift around the eyes. Bold, she said. Elias expected the blade to fall. He had already chosen the moment in his head. He had already decided not to look away. But then something else happened. A small figure slipped out of a side gate near the Queen's platform. At first, Elias thought it was a servant. Then he saw the tiny crest, the small ceremonial collar. The way nearby guards reacted too late. It was not a servant. It was a royal child. The child moved fast with quick, uncertain steps. Not like a trained soldier, like a person running towards something they wanted without thinking through the rules. Stop, one guard snapped in Valerie. Another reached out, but the child slipped past, small and agile. The crowd noticed. Sound broke apart into confusion. Elias watched, unable to understand what he was seeing. A royal child did not enter the arena during an execution, not if the Dominion cared about control as much as it seemed to. The child ran straight toward him. Elias's body tensed automatically. He could not move much with the restraint still pulling at his joints, but he could still react. His mind flashed through possibilities. A trick, a test, a weapon hidden under ceremonial cloth. But the child's face, wide eyes, trembling mouth, did not look like a trap. It looked like fear. And something else. Hope. The child reached him and did not stop. It threw its arms around his waist. Its small body pressed against him as if he were a wall and the world was wind. The arena went quiet in a way Elias had never heard before. Not the quiet of control, the quiet of shock. Elias stood frozen. He could feel the child's heartbeat against his side, fast and uneven. He could smell the sharp scent of its skin, something like cold herbs and rain on metal. Elias glanced up. The queen's blade was still raised. Her posture was unchanged, but the air around her felt different, like a storm that had stopped moving and was deciding where to strike. The child tightened its grip. It looked up at Elias, then toward the queen, then back at Elias again, as if it was choosing, as if it was saying, without words, "Please don't let go." Elias did not know the rules of the Dominion well enough to predict what came next, but he did know one thing about crowds. They could forgive many things, but they never forgave embarrassment. And this was embarrassment for an empire. The queen's voice did not come immediately. When it did, it was quiet. "Why?" she asked. "Is my air touching prey?" Elias's mouth went dry. He did not answer, because he had no answer. All he could do was look down at the child, then back up at the queen and hold still, careful not to scare the small life clinging to him. The queen's blade hummed, steady and bright, for a heartbeat. It seemed like the whole world was waiting to see if certainty could be broken. And then the queen took one step forward. Not to strike. Not yet, but close enough that Elias could see a reflection of his own face in the pale edge of her blade. Tired, stubborn, and suddenly afraid of what mercy might cost. Because sometimes Elias thought the most dangerous thing in any empire was not rebellion. It was a child who chose a different story. And to part one hook, the queen did not swing her blade, but the arena was no longer watching an execution. It was watching a choice that could break an empire. The arena had never been this silent. Thousands of Zalari filled the seats. Warriors, nobles, scholars, citizens. Every one of them had come to watch a human die. Instead, they were watching the royal heir cling to him. Commander Elias Ward did not move. The small alien child pressed against his side, arms wrapped tightly around his waist. The child's body trembled, not from cold, from fear. The queen stood only a few steps away. Her blade still glowed. Her guards did not know what to do. No one had trained for this moment. No one had prepared for a royal child stepping into an execution arena and choosing condemned prisoner. The queen's voice came again, calm but sharper now. "Heir, return." The word echoed through the arena. The child did not move. Elias could feel the child's grip tighten. The queen's eyes shifted from the child to Elias. "What have you done to it?" she asked. Her tone was not loud. It did not need to be. Elias met her gaze. His throat felt dry, but he forced himself to speak clearly. "Nothing," he said. The crowd stirred. Some hissed in anger. Some shouted insults in the Zalari language. The sound rolled like distant thunder, but never fully broke the silence. The queen took another step forward. The glowing blade hovered near Elias's shoulder now, close enough that he could feel heat on his skin. "My heir does not approach prey," she said. "Explain." Elias did not know how much she already knew, but he understood something important. If he said the wrong thing, the child could suffer for it. So he chose simple truth. 3 days ago, he said, "Your child was in danger." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. The crowd quieted again. Elias continued. "There was a breach in the upper citadel. A section lost atmosphere. I was being transferred through that corridor." He paused. His wrist still ached from where he had broken one to escape the restraint that day. He could almost feel it again. "The child was there," he said. "Alone." A low murmur moved through the arena. The queen's blade flickered, but she did not interrupt. The corridor doors failed, Elias said. The air was venting into space. The memory was sharp in his mind. The scream of rushing air. The guards frozen for 1 second too long. The small figure slipping on smooth metal floors. The queen spoke, her voice colder now. "You were restrained." "Yes. And yet you moved." "Yes." "How?" I broke my wrist, Elias said simply. The crowd reacted. Shock, disgust, confusion. Zalari did not willingly damage their own bodies. Not unless ordered. Not unless ritual demanded it. Elias looked down briefly at the child, still holding him. I slipped the restraint, he said. I grabbed your air before the air pulled them out. The memory returned stronger now. The sudden cold. The thin emergency mask barely holding pressure. The child's small hands clawing at his uniform. The guard shouting from behind sealed doors. I used my body to shield them, Elias said, until the emergency seals closed. He did not mention how his vision had gone dark at the edges. He did not mention how he had thought very clearly, so this is how it ends. He had not saved the child because he wanted mercy. He had saved the child because it was a child. The queen's blade lowered 1 inch. You are prey, she said slowly. Why protect the offspring of your conqueror? Elias did not look away. Because they were scared, he answered. The arena went still again. The answer was too simple. Too human. The queen studied him carefully. You risk death, she said. Yes. For an enemy. For kid, Elias replied. The word did not translate perfectly. The Dominion language had several words for offspring. Heir, genetic continuation, future asset. But kid did not fit any of them. The child finally moved slightly, turning its head upward. In a small, clear voice, it spoke in its own language. I was cold, the child said. He was warm. The sound of that voice inside the arena changed everything. This was not a political statement, not a strategy, just memory. The queen's posture shifted almost invisibly. The high blade commander stepped forward from the side of the arena floor. Your Majesty, the commander said carefully, the prey manipulates. This is a known tactic, emotional infiltration. The crowd responded with approving clicks and sounds. The queen did not look at the commander. Instead, she asked Elias another question. When my guards reached you, she said, you did not release the air immediately. Elias shook his head slightly. They were panicking, he said. They tried to pull him away too fast. You resisted. Yes. Why? Elias hesitated. Because that moment had almost cost him his life. Because a Zalari guard had nearly struck him, thinking he was kidnapping the heir. Because he had shouted through cracked lips, trying to make them understand. They were still scared, he said finally. I did want them to think I was pushing them away. The high blade commander made an angry sound. Pray do not think of others, the commander said. Pray preserve only themselves. Elias glanced toward the commander. Then you haven't met many humans, he said. The queen slowly lowered her blade to her side. Gasps spread through the crowd. The blade was no longer raised for execution. It was idle. The child stepped slightly in front of Elias now, small body between him and the queen. The meaning was clear. The queen stared at her heir. You trust it? She asked. The child nodded. Yes. The word was small, but it echoed louder than the horn had earlier. The queen finally turned her head toward the crowd. Silence, she commanded. The arena obeyed instantly. She walked in a slow circle around Elias and the child, studying both from different angles. Elias felt exposed, not as a prisoner now, but as something being examined, measured. You endured capture, she said. Interrogation, public humiliation. Elias said nothing. You were offered comfort in exchange for submission. He remained silent. You refused. Yes, he said at last. Why? Because Earth still mattered. Because symbols mattered. Because even losing with dignity was better than living without it. But he did not give a speech. Because it was mine to refuse, he said. The queen stopped in front of him again. The air between them felt heavy. You are weak compared to us, she said. Your fleets broke. Your cities fell. Yes. And yet, she continued, you risked your life for mine. Elias looked at the child. I didn't think about empires, he said. I thought about not letting someone die. The high blade commander stepped forward again. This display weakens the Dominion, the commander warned. Execute the prey. Reassert order. Many in the crowd agreed. The queen did not respond immediately. Instead, she knelt. The movement shocked everyone. A Zauri queen did not kneel in public. She lowered herself to eye level with her child. "Why run to it?" she asked softly. The child looked at Elias, then back at her. "He did not let go," the child said. The answer was simple, clear, honest. The queen's gaze shifted to Elias one more time. For the first time since entering the arena, she extinguished her blade. The humming stopped. Light faded. The arena gasped as one. The execution had paused, but it was not over. The queen rose slowly. "This human," she announced, her voice carrying across every seat, acted against survival instinct to preserve Dominion blood. Murmurs, confusion, anger. The high blade commander's plates shifted with tension. "Such behavior," the queen continued, "is inconsistent with prey classification." The word prey hung in the air like a question. Elias felt something change in the arena. Not acceptance, but doubt. And doubt was dangerous. The queen turned toward her guard. "Return the heir to the citadel," she ordered. The child hesitated, then slowly released Elias. The small hand slid away from his uniform. For a moment, Elias felt strangely cold. The child looked up at him one last time. "Warm," it said softly. Then the guards carefully escorted the heir away. Elias remained standing in the center of the arena, unarmed, unrestrained now, alive. The queen faced him again. "You are not executed today," she said. Shock rippled through the Dominion citizens. "However," she added, "your existence now carries consequence." The high blade commander stepped forward sharply. "Your Majesty." She silenced him with a single raised hand. "Strength is not blind repetition," she said. "Strength is adaptation." The word echoed. Adaptation, a human trait. The crowd did not cheer. They did not protest either. They were unsure, and uncertainty inside an empire could spread faster than rebellion. The queen looked directly at Elias. "You may have saved more than my heir," she said quietly. Elias did not understand what she meant. Not yet. High above them, in the shadows of the arena walls, several Dominion war leaders watched in silence. And in their silence, resentment began to grow, because mercy could be forgiven. But change? Change to fracture an empire. The arena did not empty quickly. No one wanted to leave. They had come to watch a human die. Instead, they had watched their queen lower her blade. That single act moved through the Dominion like a crack in glass. Commander Elias Ward still stood in the center of the arena floor. The guards had not reattached his restraints, but they had not stepped away either. They formed a wide circle around him, unsure whether he was still a prisoner or something else. High above, Dominion nobles whispered in sharp, clicking tones. Military leaders sent silent signals through wrist consoles. News drones hovered near the ceiling, recording every second. The queen stood tall again, her blade gone, her expression unreadable. "Remove the prisoner from the arena," she ordered calmly. The high blade commander stepped forward. This commander was older than the others. His armor was darker, marked with scars from past wars. His eyes burned with anger that he was trying very hard to control. "With respect, Your Majesty," he said, "this human should not leave alive." The crowd reacted, some agreeing loudly. "He defies classification." The commander continued. "Prey who act beyond instinct are unstable. Unstable species become threats." Elias did not speak. He kept his breathing steady. The queen's gaze turned toward the commander. "And what does the Dominion do with threats?" she asked. "We eliminate them before they grow." The commander answered immediately. The queen took one slow step toward Elias. "And what does the Dominion do with strength?" she asked. The commander hesitated. "We control it," he said. The queen looked back at Elias. "This human acted with strength," she said. "Not desperation. Not fear." The commander's voice sharpened. He acted with deception. Elias finally spoke. "I didn't know who the kid was," he said. "I just saw someone about to die." The commander snapped his head toward him. "Silence, pray." Elias did not flinch. The queen raised her hand slightly, and the commander fell quiet. 3 days ago, The queen said, addressing the entire arena now. My heir entered a restricted corridor during a system's failure. A large projection screen above the arena flickered to life. Security footage appeared. The image showed a metal corridor inside the royal citadel. Warning lights flashed red. Air was venting violently through a broken section of hull. Guards were shouting and struggling to seal doors. Then the image shifted. A human figure, thin, restrained, appeared in the hallway. Elias watched his past self move. He saw the hesitation for half a second. Then he saw himself act. He twisted his wrist sharply against a restraint device. The crack was visible even without sound. The restraint loosened. The footage showed him sprinting forward as the small royal figure slipped toward the vacuum breach. Gasps filled the arena. The footage showed Elias diving, grabbing the child, and turning his own body toward the rushing void. He pulled his emergency mask over both of them, even though it barely covered two faces. The guards in the video tried to close the blast doors. It took too long. Elias held the child tight, bracing against the suction. Then the emergency shield sealed. The footage ended with Elias collapsing, still wrapped around the air. Silence fell across the arena again. The High Blade Commander's voice came low and tense. He endangered Dominion blood by interfering, he said. The Queen turned slowly toward him. He preserved Dominion blood by acting, she replied. The commander stepped forward, anger no longer hidden. This is contamination, he said. Emotional contamination. Prey instinct infected the air. At that word, the crowd stirred more violently. Infection, contamination. Those words carried fear. The Queen's eyes hardened. You believe compassion is weakness, she said. It is inefficiency, the commander corrected. It leads to hesitation. And yet, the Queen said, this inefficient act saved your future ruler. The commander did not answer. He could not deny the footage, but pride was strong. Then eliminate the source of contamination, he said finally. Execute the human now, in private if necessary. Several other High Blades began stepping forward in support. The atmosphere shifted. This was no longer about one human. This was about doctrine. Elias understood that much. The Dominion had rules carved into its bones. Hierarchy, control, strength without emotion. If the Queen changed that even slightly, the foundation would shake. The High Blade Commander moved closer to Elias. If your Majesty will not act, he said, then I will preserve Dominion purity. He activated his own blade. Bright energy extended from his arm with a sharp hiss. The guards tensed. The crowd rose from their seats. The Queen's voice cut through the noise. Stand down. The commander did not. He stepped toward Elias. Elias's body reacted on instinct. He moved slightly, placing himself between the advancing blade and the direction the air had been taken. He did not even think about it. He just did it. The Queen saw that. Even now, even facing death again, the human positioned himself to shield the child who was no longer there. The commander raised his blade. This weakness will spread, he declared. Before the blade could fall, the Queen moved. She did not summon her weapon. She did not shout. She simply struck. Her armored limb hit the commander's wrist with precise force. His blade flickered and shut down. In the same motion, she placed herself between him and Elias. Gasps exploded through the arena. The Queen stood facing her own military leader. You forget yourself, she said. The commander stared at her in disbelief. I defend the Dominion, he argued. You challenge your Queen, she replied calmly. Other High Blades hesitated now. None dared step forward. The Queen's voice rose just enough for the entire arena to hear. Doctrine exists to serve survival, she said, not pride. She looked around at her people. For generations, we have believed strength means domination without emotion. Her gaze returned to the commander. But strength also means choice. The word echoed deeply. Choice. The Dominion valued certainty, predictability, control. Choice introduced uncertainty. The commander's voice lowered, almost pleading now. If we show mercy to prey, others will resist. Other species will see weakness. The Queen's eyes flashed. Or they will see something new, she said. The arena was completely silent. Elias felt the weight of thousands of eyes. He understood he was no longer just a prisoner. He was evidence. The queen turned to him. "Human," she said. "Yes," Elias answered. "If released, will you call for renewed war?" He thought carefully. He could lie. He could promise peace. But he chose honesty. "I'll protect my people," he said. "That's what I do." The answer was not comforting, but it was real. The queen nodded slowly. "Protection," she repeated, "not conquest." Elias shook his head. "We're not built for ruling galaxies," he said quietly. "We're built for surviving them." A few in the crowd made uncertain sounds. The queen faced her people again. "This human does not kneel," she said. "Not because he cannot, but because he chooses not to." She looked at the High Blade Commander one last time. "And I choose." The words felt heavy. Final. The commander understood. Slowly, he deactivated his blade completely and stepped back. But the anger in his eyes did not fade. It hardened. The queen raised her voice across the arena. "The human will not be executed." Shock rippled again. He will remain under Dominion protection until further decree. Protection. The word stunned everyone, Elias included. The queen turned toward him once more. "You are no longer spectacle," she said. "You are variable." Elias almost smiled at that. "Story of my life," he muttered softly. The queen ignored the comment, but something like curiosity flickered in her gaze. Above them, several war leaders quietly left the arena, not in agreement, in planning, because doctrine had cracked today. And when empires crack, power shifts. As Elias was escorted away, this time without restraints, the crowd did not cheer. They watched. They whispered. They wondered. And in hidden chambers deep inside the Dominion capital, the High Blade Commander gathered those who still believed in absolute rule. "If the queen will not preserve strength," he said coldly, "then we must." Outside the chamber, fleets began to move, quietly, without announcement, and far above the planet, in dark orbit, ships adjusted their positions, not toward Earth this time, but toward the capital itself. The rebellion did not begin with explosions. It began with silence. 3 Dominion fleets stopped responding to Central Command within the same hour. Their transponders remained active, but no messages came through, no updates, no confirmations. In the capital, military analysts tried to explain it as a system delay. It was not. Inside a private war chamber beneath the city, the High Blade Commander stood before a circle of armored officers. "The Queen has allowed weakness to enter the throne," he said. "If doctrine bends once, it will bend again." The officers listened carefully. "Our fleets are loyal to strength," he continued. "We will remind them what strength looks like." Above the planet, ships quietly shifted formation, their weapons charged. Commander Elias Ward did not know all of this yet. He stood inside a tall chamber of white crystal walls, under heavy guard, but without restraints. The room was not a prison cell. It was something between guest chamber and containment. Through the high windows, he could see part of the city. Zalari architecture reached upward in smooth towers, glowing faintly in the evening light. It was beautiful in a cold, sharp way. The door opened. The queen entered alone. No guards. No weapons visible. Elias straightened slightly. "Am I being executed today?" he asked calmly. The queen ignored the sarcasm. "The Dominion fractures," she said. He studied her carefully. "You expected that," he replied. "Yes," she admitted. She stepped closer to the window. "Strength without flexibility becomes brittle," she said. "I knew some would resist." "And now," Elias asked, "they move against me?" The words were simple, but heavy. Elias folded his arms. "And what does that mean for Earth?" The queen looked at him directly. "If I fall, the Dominion returns to pure conquest." That answer was clear enough. Elias felt something twist in his chest. This was not his war, not his empire. But if the rebellion won, Earth would not be spared a second time. "You need help," he said. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "You are one human." He shook his head. "I'm not talking about me." The emergency transmission reached Earth's remaining defense council within minutes. It carried Dominion encryption, but the voice was unmistakable. Queen Valethira appeared on every surviving human broadcast channel. Behind her stood Elias, alive, scarred, but standing. The human council chamber fell into stunned silence. The Queen spoke clearly. Dominion internal forces move to remove current leadership. If they succeed, Earth will be reassessed as unfinished conquest. Murmurs broke out among the human leaders. She continued, I offer alliance, immediate and temporary. Shared defense of the capital. Shared strategic command. One council member leaned toward the screen. Why would we help you? She demanded. Elias answered before the Queen could. Because if she loses, he said, we lose next. Silence again. A human general folded his hands. And after? The general asked. The Queen did not hesitate. After, we negotiate as equals. That word traveled through every room listening. Equals. The transmission ended. For several long minutes, Earth argued. Trusting the Dominion felt impossible, but ignoring this felt worse. Finally, the decision was made. Human ships, damaged, mismatched, barely held together, began to move, not toward escape, toward the Dominion capital. Above the alien world, rebellion fleets took attack positions. Their formation was tight and traditional. Heavy ships in front, support ships behind, clean lines, predictable. The Queen stood on her command platform as alarms sounded. They will strike within minutes, an officer reported. Elias stood beside a Dominion tactical display. Your ships are too rigid, he said. The officer bristled. Our formations are perfected. Yeah, Elias replied. That's the problem. A new signal appeared on the display. Human ships exiting faster than light travel. They did not form neat lines. They scattered immediately. Some dove low into orbit. Others circled wide. A few powered down weapons entirely. Dominion officers stared in confusion. What are they doing? One asked. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Being unpredictable. The rebellion fleet opened fire first. Bright energy beams shot toward the capital's defense grid. Dominion ships responded in perfect symmetry. And then the human ships entered the fight. Not in formation. In chaos. They targeted supply ships first. Communication relays. Shield harmonics. Not the biggest ships, the most important ones. Human pilots wove between Dominion vessels at dangerous angles. Some took hits. Some spun out of control. But every move forced a rebellion to break formation. Your fleets rely on clean structure, Elias said quickly. Break that and they hesitate. The Queen watched the tactical map carefully. Adapt, she ordered her commanders. For the first time in Dominion history, Central Command allowed battlefield improvisation. Ships changed positions without waiting for full approval. Smaller vessels acted independently. The rebellion fleet faltered. They had prepared for a direct clash, not a shifting storm. A rebel cruiser tried to push toward the capital's upper shield layer. A damaged human frigate cut across its path, firing everything it had left. The frigate was destroyed seconds later. But the cruiser drifted off course long enough for Dominion interceptors to disable it. Elias watched the feed of that human ship disappear. He felt the loss sharply. The Queen noticed. You grieve, she observed. Yes, he said. They were not your direct command. They were mine anyway, he replied quietly. The Queen absorbed that. On the tactical map, rebellion ships began retreating. Not in victory, in survival. Within 2 hours, the rebellion's main assault had failed. Remaining rebel commanders signaled surrender or fled beyond sensor range. The capital still stood, damaged, scarred, but standing. Hours later, silence returned to orbit. Emergency crews moved between drifting debris. Human and Dominion ships floated side by side. Not enemies, not yet friends. Something new. Inside the command chamber, the Queen faced Elias. You have altered the Dominion, she said. He shook his head. No, he replied. Your people did. They just needed permission. She considered that. The High Blade commander is in custody, she said. Many who followed him request judgment. Elias looked at her carefully. "And what will you choose?" he asked. The queen stood tall. "Exile," she said. "Not execution." Elias blinked. "That's risky." "Yes," she agreed. "But strength is choice." The words felt different now. Earned. Later that day, another transmission was sent. This time not as warning, but declaration. Queen Valethira addressed both Dominion and Earth. "Today," she said, "two species defended each other." She paused. "Humanity is no longer prey." Across the Dominion, that sentence echoed. Humanity is recognized as sovereign equal. On Earth, people stare at their screens in disbelief. The Queen continued. "Strength is not domination without feeling. Strength is protection with purpose." Beside her stood the royal heir. The child looked toward Elias. Warm. The simple word from before. But now it carried meaning. Years later, historians from both species would mark this day as the beginning of the accord. Trade routes would open. Joint fleets would patrol shared space. Cultural exchanges would begin. Slow, careful, uncertain. There would still be arguments. Still distrust. But no invasion. No extermination. In a quiet chamber overlooking the capital, Elias prepared to return to Earth. The Queen met him there one last time before departure. "You could remain," she said. He smiled slightly. "I've got a planet that needs rebuilding." She inclined her head. "My heir will remember you." "Tell them," Elias said, "that next time they run into danger, maybe pick someone smaller to hide behind." For the first time, something close to amusement touched the Queen's expression. "You are fragile," she said. "Yeah," Elias replied, "but we don't break easy." As his transport lifted away from the Dominion capital, Elias looked back at the alien world. He had come here as a prisoner. He left as something else. Not hero, not conqueror, just human. And sometimes that was enough to change an empire.